My wife's affair was a devastating blow, but her attempt to fix everything was even more cynical. She suggested an open marriage. When I refused, she gave me an ultimatum. Either we live like this or we get a divorce. In that moment, I knew our marriage was dead. With nothing left to lose, I decided to play along with her game. The end of this story left me feeling proud, and her utterly humiliated. You ever have a moment that splits your life in two? Before and after. For me, that moment wasn't a car crash or a phone call from a hospital. It was the soft, insidious click of a video file opening on my wife's laptop. The story I'm about to tell you. It's about the death of a marriage, yes. But it's also about what happens when you're pushed past your breaking point and discover a version of yourself you never knew existed. She wanted an open marriage to justify her affair. So I gave her one. And it destroyed her. It was a Tuesday. I remember that because we had tacos. Tacos are our Tuesday thing. Or they were. It's funny, the stupid little details that stick in your brain like pieces of shrapnel after an explosion. I was working late from home, grinding on a presentation for a client. I'm a graphic designer, so my life is a series of deadlines and revisions. Isabella, my wife, had gone to bed a couple of hours earlier, complaining of a headache. Around 1 a.m., I hit a wall. I needed a specific font file that I knew was on an old project drive, and I remembered she'd borrowed that drive last week. Her laptop bag was on the floor by the couch. I figured, no big deal. I'll just grab the drive, find the file, and be done in 10 minutes. The drive wasn't in the main compartment. I unzipped the front pocket, and there it was, nestled next to her tablet. As I pulled it out, my fingers brushed against a second thumb drive. This one was sleek, black, and unlabeled. Curiosity is a hell of a drug. I shouldn't have. God, I know I shouldn't have. But some primal instinct, some quiet alarm bell that had been ringing faintly in the back of my mind for months, told me to plug it in. I slid it into my USB port. The folder that opened was innocuously named Marketing Assets Q3. Inside, there were a few PDFs, some image files, and one video file. Project _ Phoenix _ final _ cut.mp4. It was over a gigabyte in size. I thought it was some new campaign she was working on. She was an account manager at a high-end advertising agency. Ambitious, driven. I was always proud of that. I double-clicked. It wasn't a marketing video. The video opened on a hotel room. I recognized the wallpaper. The W Hotel downtown. Her company sometimes put up clients there. A man's voice laughing. A voice I knew. Mark, her boss. And then the camera panned, and I saw Isabella. My Isabella. She was laughing, holding a glass of champagne, wearing... Well, she wasn't wearing much. My blood went cold. Not hot, not angry, ice cold. It felt like my heart had been submerged in a bucket of liquid nitrogen. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. I just watched. They weren't just together. They were performing. Talking to the camera, which one of them had propped up on the dresser. It was arrogant. It was brazen. But the visual betrayal, as gut-wrenching as it was, wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the audio. The worst part was what they were saying.
You're sure Alex is just okay with you being on this work retreat all weekend?
That was Mark, smug bastard.
Oh, honey, Alex is okay with anything. He's reliable, stable, like a good solid piece of furniture. You know he's there. You appreciate that he holds your crap, but you don't exactly get excited about him.
A piece of furniture. My hands started shaking. I had to grip the edge of my desk to steady them.
So, no danger of him finding out?
Please. He trusts me completely. He's too busy with his little cartoon drawings and his deadlines to even notice I'm gone. Besides, what would he even do? He's not exactly the confrontational type. He'd probably just apologize for getting in the way.
They both laughed, a deep, mocking sound that echoed in the silent house. The rest of the video, I'll spare you the details. But it went on for 27 minutes. 27 minutes of my wife and her boss not just cheating on me, but actively mocking me, belittling me, assassinating my character while they defiled our marriage bed, or a hotel's version of it. When it was over, I didn't move. I just sat there in the dark, the glow of the monitor painting my face. The file name, project_phoenix_final_cut, seared itself into my brain. A phoenix. A mythical bird that rises from the ashes. It was their little inside joke. They were burning my life down to the ground to start something new. I felt a wave of nausea so powerful I had to stumble to the bathroom, where I dry heaved over the toilet, nothing but bile coming up. I splashed cold water on my face and stared at the stranger in the mirror. His eyes were wide with a horror I'd only ever seen in movies. He looked weak, pathetic, just like she'd described. A good, solid piece of furniture. Something inside me snapped. It wasn't a loud crack, but a quiet, tectonic shift. The part of me that loved her, the part that would have forgiven almost anything, withered and died in that moment. And in its place, something else began to grow. Something cold, hard, and patient. I walked back to the computer, copied the video file to a secure cloud server, then copied it again to a new, encrypted thumb drive that I hid in my office safe. Then I deleted the original from their drive and wiped the recent file history from my computer. I put their thumb drive back in her laptop bag, right where I found it. I zipped it up. I sat back down at my desk and stared at the door to our bedroom. She was in there, sleeping peacefully. My wife, the woman I had promised my life to, and I had never felt more hate for another human being. I thought the video was the worst part. I was wrong. So wrong. The real nightmare was about to begin. The next morning was surreal. I didn't sleep. I just sat in my office, watching the sun come up, feeling the cold anger solidifying in my gut. It was like forging steel. The shock was the heat, the pain was the hammer, and what was left was hard and sharp. Isabella came out around 7 a.m., dressed in a silk robe, yawning. She smiled at me, the same smile that used to make my day. Now it made my skin crawl.
Morning, babe. You were up late.
I just nodded, my throat too tight to speak. I'd made a decision during those long, dark hours. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me as the weak, non-confrontational man she described in her little porno. I was going to be calm, controlled, a surgeon with a scalpel.
Coffee's on. I have that big presentation today. Wish me luck.
The Phoenix Project? I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. She froze, her hand halfway to the coffee pot. Her eyes darted to mine, searching. For a split second, I saw it. Panic. But she was a professional liar. She recovered instantly.
Yeah, how'd you know? Did I talk about it?
You must have, I said, taking a sip of my own coffee. It tasted like ash. Knock 'em dead. I let her squirm for the rest of the day. I let her go to work, probably texting Mark, wondering if I knew, how I could have known. I needed her off balance. That evening, I was waiting for her on the couch when she got home. I didn't get up. I just watched her walk in, her posture a little too perfect, her smile a little too bright. We need to talk, I said. The fake smile vanished. She dropped her keys on the counter. Okay, she said, drawing the word out. I know, Isabella. That's all it took. Her face for the first time showed genuine, unadulterated fear.
You know what? Alex, you're being cryptic. If you have something to say, just say it.
I know about you and Mark, I said, my voice level. I know about the hotel. I know about Project Phoenix. The color drained from her face. She looked like she'd been punched in the stomach. She opened her mouth, then closed it. The usual denials, the gaslighting I had expected, they never came. She knew the game was up. But what she did next, I could never have predicted in a million years. She didn't cry. She didn't apologize. She took a deep breath, squared her shoulders, and her expression shifted from fear to a kind of defiant resolve. It was the most astonishing transformation I'd ever witnessed.
Okay. So,
She walked over and sat in the chair opposite me, like this was a business negotiation.
Look, I'm not going to insult your intelligence by denying it. Yes, something is going on between Mark and me. It's been happening for a few months.
I just stared, my silence a weapon.
But it's not what you think. It's not sordid. We have a connection. An intellectual one, a creative one. The physical stuff. It's just an extension of that. It doesn't mean I don't love you.
I almost laughed. The sheer, unmitigated gall. She was trying to frame her affair as some kind of noble, intellectual pursuit. You love me, I repeated, my voice dripping with a sarcasm so cold it could have frozen steam. The way you love a good, solid piece of furniture. Her composure finally cracked. Her eyes widened. She knew. I had seen the video. There was no spinning this. This was the moment for remorse, for begging, for a desperate plea for forgiveness. Instead, she doubled down.
I shouldn't have said that. It was cruel, and I'm sorry you heard it. But Alex, you have to understand. I've been feeling suffocated, stifled. Our life is a routine. It's comfortable, but it's not exciting. I need more. And I think you might need more too.
I just watched her, letting her dig her own grave.
People evolve. Marriages should be able to evolve too. What if we didn't have to end this? What if we could redefine it? I love what we have. Our home, our history. I don't want to lose that. Mark fulfills a need that we don't have anymore. And maybe there's someone out there who could do the same for you.
My mind was reeling. I was trying to process the words coming out of her mouth. What are you saying, Isabella? She leaned forward, her eyes gleaming with a kind of manic sincerity. This was her big pitch.
I'm saying we should have an open marriage.
There it was. The most insulting, disrespectful, soul-destroying proposition I could ever imagine. She didn't just want to cheat. She wanted my permission. She wanted a hall pass to sleep with her boss while keeping me, the good, reliable furniture, at home. She wanted her cake, and she wanted to eat it in my bed. Have you ever looked at someone you've loved for years and realized you're staring at a complete stranger? That cold dread in your stomach, that feeling of total disconnection? Drop a comment below if you've been there. I honestly need to know I'm not alone in feeling that level of shock. I didn't answer her right away. I let the silence hang in the air, thick and heavy. I could see the cogs turning in her head. She thought she was being progressive, modern. She thought she was offering a sophisticated solution. She had no idea that with those 3 words, open marriage, she hadn't saved our relationship. She had handed me the very weapon I needed to destroy her. I stood up slowly. I need to think about this, I said, my voice betraying no emotion. As I walked back to my office and closed the door, I heard her let out a small sigh of relief. She thought I was considering it. She thought she had won. A cold, thin smile touched my lips. She wanted an open marriage. Fine, game on. The next 48 hours were a masterclass in self-control. I moved into the guest room telling Isabella I needed space to process her proposal. In reality, I was turning that room into a war room. The pain was still there, a constant dull ache behind my ribs, but the anger was a clean, pure energy. It gave me focus. My first call was to my best friend Dave. Dave is a Marine-turned-software engineer. He's pragmatic, loyal, and has a bullshit detector that could pick up a lie from 100 miles away. We met on a park bench, not at a bar. I needed a clear head. I laid it all out for him. The video, the furniture comment, the open marriage pitch. He listened patiently, his jaw getting tighter and tighter with every word. When I was done, he was silent for a full minute, just staring at a crack in the pavement.
You know you have to divorce her, right? Like yesterday.
I know, I said. The marriage is over. It died on Tuesday night.
So what's this thinking about it crap? Don't play her games, man. Just call a lawyer and scorch the earth.
Oh, I'm going to call a lawyer, I said, leaning back. But I'm not going to just divorce her. She didn't just cheat on me, Dave. She humiliated me. She thinks I'm a weak, predictable pushover. She offered me this deal because she is 100% certain I'll either refuse and she'll play the victim, or I'll be so terrified of losing her, I'll actually agree to be her little doormat. Dave finally looked at me, a glimmer of understanding in his eyes. So, what are you going to do? I'm going to agree, I said. He stared at me.
You're what? Alex, have you lost your mind? She's screwing her boss.
I'm going to agree to her open marriage, I clarified, a plan that had been crystallizing for 2 days now, finally taking shape. I'm going to play the part of the heartbroken but enlightened husband. I'm going to give her exactly what she asked for. And then, I'm going to beat her at her own game, so thoroughly and so devastatingly that she will spend the rest of her life regretting she ever uttered those words. Dave was quiet for another long moment. Then, a slow grin spread across his face.
You're a cold-blooded son of a bitch, you know that? I love it. But are you sure you can pull this off without breaking yourself in the process?
Watching that video already broke me, I said. This is just me picking up the pieces and building something new, something sharper. My next call was to a divorce attorney. Not just any attorney, but the best, most ruthless family law specialist in the city. A woman named Catherine Shaw, whose nickname in the legal community was the Shark. Our meeting was brief and brutally efficient. I played her 5 minutes of the video, specifically the part where they mocked me and Isabella admitted to the affair. Catherine, a woman in her 50s with eyes that could cut glass, didn't even flinch.
Well, this is refreshingly straightforward.
I explained my plan. She advised me on the legalities. In our state, infidelity could impact alimony. My participation in an open marriage could complicate that, but if I documented everything, kept meticulous records, and proved it was all a response to her pre-existing affair and coercion, I could protect myself.
Let her think she's in control.
She advised, her voice crisp.
Communicate via text or email about the rules of your arrangement whenever possible. Create a paper trail. Don't move out. Don't spend marital assets extravagantly. Live your life, Mr. Davis. And when you're ready, call me. We'll have the guillotine sharpened and waiting.
Leaving her office, I felt a surge of power I hadn't felt in years. I wasn't a victim anymore. I was a strategist. The final phase of my preparation was personal. Isabella saw me as furniture, dependable, boring, and static. Fine. It was time for a complete renovation. That weekend, I did something I hadn't done since we got married. I spent money on myself. A lot of it. I went to a high-end department store and worked with a personal stylist. I replaced my worn-out jeans and faded t-shirts with tailored jackets, crisp shirts, and dark, well-fitting denim. I bought new shoes that weren't sneakers. I got a sharp, modern haircut. I renewed my membership at the rock climbing gym I used to love, a place I'd given up because Isabella thought it was a silly boy's hobby. I started lifting weights again. I felt the burn in my muscles, the sweat, the physical exertion, and it was like I was purging the weakness and complacency from my body. I wasn't just building a new wardrobe, I was building armor. I wasn't just building muscle, I was building a new identity. The old Alex, the trusting, comfortable husband, was dead and buried. The new Alex was being forged. By Sunday night, the architect had finished his blueprints. The legal foundation was laid. The new man was under construction. I walked out of the guest room and found Isabella in the kitchen, nursing a glass of wine, her face a mask of anxiety. She looked up as I entered, her eyes wide and questioning. "Okay," I said, my voice calm and even. "I've thought about it. If this is what you need to be happy and to stay with me, then I'll agree. We can try an open marriage." The relief that washed over her face was so profound it was almost comical. She rushed over to hug me, a gesture so dripping with hypocrisy it took every ounce of my willpower not to recoil.
Oh, Alex, thank you. You have no idea what this means to me. We can make this work, I know we can.
I gently pushed her away. "But we need to be clear," I said, my tone shifting to one of cool negotiation. "This door swings both ways. Complete openness, no jealousy, no questions asked. If this is the new reality, then we both live in it. Agreed?"
Agreed. Of course, whatever you need.
She was practically giddy. She thought she'd just pulled off the heist of the century. She had no idea she'd just willingly walked into the most intricate trap I could design. The game was afoot, and I was going to play for keeps. For the first 2 weeks, I did nothing. This was a calculated move, a critical part of the strategy. I let Isabella settle into her new reality. She was practically glowing. She'd come home from work late, smelling faintly of Mark's expensive cologne with a smug, satisfied look on her face. She thought she had it all. The stability of her marriage and the thrill of her affair, now sanctioned and guilt-free. Meanwhile, I played the part of the wounded, accommodating husband. I was quiet, withdrawn. I sighed a lot. I'd try to initiate conversation and then let it trail off, as if I was too sad to continue. I was watering the seeds of her arrogance and lowering her guard to subterranean levels. She saw my melancholy as proof that I would never, ever take advantage of our new arrangement. I was the safe, predictable furniture, just a little sadder now. Perfect. The first move had to be precise. It couldn't be overt. It had to be a stone skipped across a calm lake, with the ripples spreading out slowly. On a Thursday night, as we were having a typically silent dinner, I cleared my throat. "Hey, so, a friend of mine from college is in town tomorrow night," I said, carefully avoiding eye contact. "Jenna? You remember me talking about her? She's a curator at a gallery in Chicago now. I was thinking of taking her out for a drink, catching up." Isabella looked up from her salad, a flicker of surprise in her eyes. "Jenna? Oh yeah, the artsy one. Sure, babe. That sounds nice. Have fun." The dismissal was exactly what I'd expected. In her mind, this was a safe, platonic activity. A sad little man catching up with an old friend. Nothing to worry about. The next evening, I took my time getting ready. I didn't just put on a new shirt. I executed a transformation. I wore a dark gray button-down that made my shoulders look broader, the new designer jeans, the leather boots. I put a little product in my hair. I sprayed on a subtle woody cologne that I knew she'd never smelled on me before. As I was about to leave, she was on the couch, scrolling through her phone, probably texting Mark.
Wow, you clean up nice.
She said, a hint of genuine surprise in her voice.
Just for Jenna?
"It's good to make an effort sometimes," I said with a shrug. "Don't wait up." Of course, there was no Jenna. My friend for the evening was a woman named Chloe. She was Dave's wife's cousin, a sharp, witty law student who Dave had told me was fun as hell and owes me a favor. I'd met her once before at a barbecue and liked her instantly. I called her, explained the situation was weird, and that I just needed a few hours of fun, no-strings-attached conversation to get my head right. She was intrigued and agreed immediately. Chloe and I went to a cool, dimly lit cocktail bar downtown. And for the first time in months, I felt alive. We didn't talk about my marriage. We talked about her mock trials, my design projects, old movies, stupid internet memes. We laughed. A real, genuine, belly-aching laugh. It was like a drug. I wasn't pretending to have a good time. I actually was. Around midnight, Chloe gave me a hug goodbye. "For what it's worth," she said, "you're way too interesting to be anyone's furniture." She then, as per my slightly devious request, gave me a quick, friendly kiss on the cheek, making sure to leave a faint, shimmery trace of her lipstick. I came home at 1 a.m. Isabella was, as I predicted, still up, pretending to read a book on the couch. The trap was set. She watched me as I walked in, her eyes scanning me from head to toe.
You were out late?
It wasn't an accusation. Not yet. It was an observation, laced with a new and unfamiliar curiosity. "Yeah, time got away from us," I said, keeping my voice light and breezy. I walked past her into the kitchen to get a glass of water, making sure she was on the side with the lipstick mark. I saw her eyes narrow. She saw it.
So, how is Jenna?
"She's great," I said, taking a long sip of water. "Just as funny as I remember. We had a blast. I haven't laughed that hard in ages." I didn't offer any more details. I let the silence and her imagination do the work. I could almost hear the questions clicking through her brain. Since when does he stay out until 1 a.m.? Since when does he wear cologne? Is that lipstick? No, it couldn't be. It was just Jenna, right? I went to the guest room, my new sanctuary. Good night, I called out. She didn't answer. Lying in bed, I felt a grim satisfaction. The first ripple had hit the shore. She wasn't jealous yet. She was unsettled, confused. Her perfect, predictable world had a crack in it, and a strange new light was starting to shine through. She thought this was a one-off, a fluke. She had no idea that Chloe was just the opening act. The real show was about to begin. And the next part of this story is where things get truly insane. So if you're not subscribed, now's the time. You don't want to miss what happens next. The week after my date with Jenna was marked by a subtle but distinct shift in the household atmosphere. Isabella was watching me. Not in a loving way, but in the way a scientist observes an experiment that's starting to produce unexpected results. She asked more questions about my day. She'd casually bring up Jenna, trying to pry for more details. I remained a friendly, impenetrable wall of vague positivity. This was the time to apply pressure. A single event could be dismissed as an anomaly. A pattern, however, becomes a threat. My new life, fueled by righteous anger and a secret gym membership, had begun to yield actual results. I was leaner, more energetic. My confidence, which had been eroded to nothing, was slowly being rebuilt, rep by rep, successful client pitch by successful client pitch. And people noticed that. My second date happened a week and a half later. This one was real. A woman from my climbing gym, a freelance photographer named Maya, had struck up a conversation with me. She was vibrant, covered in interesting tattoos, and had a laugh that could fill a room. She asked if I wanted to grab a beer after our session. I said yes. I didn't tell Isabella I was going on a date. I just told her I was going climbing. Which was true. When I came home around 11 p.m., happy and relaxed after a few hours of genuinely fun conversation, Isabella was waiting up again. This was becoming a habit.
You're home late from the gym.
She said. Her tone was flat, but her eyes were sharp. Yeah, a few of us went out for a drink afterward, I said, tossing my gym bag on the floor.
Us?
Yeah, just some people from the gym. Again, vague. True, but incomplete. I was giving her pieces of a puzzle, knowing her suspicious mind would assemble them into a monster far more frightening than the reality. And so it began. The escalation protocol. Phase 1. The ghostly parade. Over the next 2 months, I constructed a phantom social life that drove her to the brink of insanity. I went out 2 or 3 times a week. Sometimes it was with Dave. Sometimes it was with a group from the gym. A couple of times it was an actual casual date with someone new. But to Isabella, it was a constant, terrifying parade of anonymous women. I was a master of subtle torture. I'd come home smelling of a perfume that wasn't hers. A new one each time. I'd leave my phone face up on the counter, knowing she'd check it. It was spotlessly clean. No flirty texts, no suspicious call logs. I used a secondary burner app for any actual date planning, but mostly, I coordinated things in person. Her inability to find proof, to find a name or a face to attach her jealousy to, was eating her alive. Phase 2. The domestic shift. Isabella's behavior started to change dramatically. First, she tried to reestablish control.
I was thinking,
She said one evening, trying to sound casual.
maybe we should set some ground rules for this arrangement. Like, maybe no overnights. And we should always tell each other who we're with. For safety.
I just looked at her. I thought the whole point was no questions asked. Those were your terms, remember? Are you changing them now that I'm actually participating? Checkmate. She couldn't argue without revealing her hypocrisy. She dropped it, but her frustration was palpable. Next, she tried to seduce me. It was bizarre. For a year, our intimacy had been perfunctory, a chore on her list. Suddenly, she was wearing lingerie around the house. She'd suggest a movie night, trying to cuddle up to me on the couch. She was trying to reassert her claim, to remind me of what I was missing. I shut it down every single time, but gently. I'd feign exhaustion. Sorry, long day. I'd claim an early morning meeting. I should probably just turn in. I'd even use her own excuse against her. I've got a headache. Every rejection was a small, sharp paper cut to her ego. She, the desirable one, the one who needed more, was being turned down by her boring, predictable furniture. The world was tilting off its axis. Phase 3. The meltdown. Her relationship with Mark was also visibly fraying. A man like him isn't in it for the emotional baggage. He wanted a fun, illicit thrill. He wasn't signing up for a stressed-out, paranoid girlfriend who was constantly checking her phone and obsessing over what her husband was doing. She'd come home from work angry and tight-lipped. I could tell they were fighting. The perfect connection she'd spoken of was turning out to be as shallow as a puddle in the sun. The breaking point came on a Saturday. I had told her I was going on a weekend camping trip with Dave. It was a lie. I was going to a beach house a friend had rented, with a group of about 10 people, including Maya from the gym. I needed a full 48-hour disconnect. I packed my bag, and as I was leaving, Isabella blocked my path. Her eyes were red-rimmed. She looked frantic.
You can't go.
What are you talking about? I told you about this trip a week ago.
Just stay. We can order in. We can watch a movie, we can talk. Please, Alex, stay home.
It was the first time I had heard genuine pleading in her voice. Isabella, this is the arrangement you wanted, I said, my voice cold and hard. Freedom, no jealousy, I'm going. I walked past her and left. I turned off my phone for the entire weekend. When I got back on Sunday evening, the house was dark. I found her in our old bedroom, sitting on the edge of the bed, just staring at the wall. She looked broken.
I can't do this anymore.
She whispered as I walked in. Can't do what? I asked, already knowing the answer.
This nightmare.
She shot to her feet, her voice rising with hysteria.
You're out every night. You come home smelling like God knows who. You don't talk to me. You don't touch me. You look at me like I'm a stranger. What happened to you?
What happened to me? I asked, my voice dangerously low. You happened to me. I'm just living by the rules you wrote, Isabella.
I hate these rules.
She screamed, tears streaming down her face.
I made a mistake. A terrible, awful mistake. I don't want this. I want you. I want us back.
She took a step toward me, her hands reaching out.
I'll end it with Mark. Today. Right now. I'll quit my job if I have to. Please, Alex, just tell me we can fix this. Tell me we can close this stupid, stupid open marriage.
She was sobbing now, a desperate, gasping sound. This was it. The moment I had been working towards for months. The moment of her complete and utter surrender. She thought this was the climax of the story, the part where the straying wife realizes her error and the loving husband takes her back, their bond now stronger than ever. She had no idea that this wasn't the climax. This was the execution. I let her cry. I stood there, a silent observer to the hurricane of her own making, and I felt absolutely nothing. The place in my heart where sympathy for her used to live was now a crater, cold and desolate. When her sobs finally subsided into ragged gasps, I spoke. My voice was not angry. It was not sad. It was the calm, flat voice of a judge reading a verdict. You think this was about an open marriage? She looked up, her tear-streaked face a mask of confusion.
What? Yes, to fix us?
There is no us to fix, Isabella, I said, cutting her off. You seem to be under a massive delusion. You think this has all been some grand experiment. You think I've been out exploring and finding myself. You think you can just snap your fingers and say, okay, fun's over, come on home now, like I'm some dog you let off its leash. I took a step closer, and for the first time, she seemed to register the absolute absence of warmth in my eyes. She flinched. This was never an open marriage, I continued, my voice methodical and precise. This was a funeral. A very long, very elaborate funeral for the love I once had for you. Our marriage didn't get sick over the last few months, Isabella. It died instantly, at 1:17 a.m. on a Tuesday, when I watched project_phoenix_final_cut.mp4 or so. Her breath hitched. She looked like she'd been struck by lightning. It wasn't even the cheating that killed it, I said, the words I'd rehearsed in my head 1,000 times now, flowing out with chilling ease. I might have, in some distant past, been able to forgive that. People make mistakes. But I will never, ever forgive what you said. The utter contempt in your voice when you called me your furniture. The way you and that smug bastard laughed about how weak and predictable I was. You didn't just betray me. You despised me. And in that moment, I realized the woman I married was a complete stranger. I let that sink in, the silence in the room punctuated only by her trembling breaths. Your open marriage proposal. It wasn't a solution. It was the ultimate act of disrespect. It was you trying to have your filet mignon with Mark while keeping your boring old pot roast on a warmer at home just in case. It was the most insulting thing anyone has ever said to me, and I decided to give you exactly what you deserved. She was shaking her head now, whispering,
No, no, that's not true. I love you.
"No, you don't," I stated, not as an opinion, but as a fact. You love the idea of me. You love the stability I provided, the home I helped build, the uncomplicated comfort of my presence. You loved my devotion, which you mistook for weakness. What you see now, this person standing in front of you who has a life, who has confidence, who doesn't need you, that person is attractive to you. You don't love me. You want what you can no longer have. I walked over to the closet, the one in our old bedroom, and pulled out a box from the top shelf. I placed it on the bed between us. Everything you've been agonizing over for the past 2 months? My late nights, my new clothes, my secretive life? It wasn't about other women, Isabella. It was about me. It was about me taking the broken, humiliated man you left behind and rebuilding him into someone who would never, ever let another person hold that much power over him again. It was about me getting my life back, a life that no longer includes you. I slid a key across the bed. This is for you. The house is yours until the divorce is final. My lawyer, Catherine Shaw, she's a real shark. You'll love her. We'll be sending your lawyer the papers tomorrow morning. They've been drawn up for 8 weeks. The finality of those words hit her like a physical blow. This wasn't a negotiation. It wasn't an argument she could win. It was a declaration of an outcome that had been decided long ago. She was a pawn in a game she didn't even know she was playing, and she had been checkmated from the very first move. Her face crumpled. The manipulative defiance, the panicked bargaining, it all melted away, leaving behind the raw, ugly face of true despair.
You planned this?
She whispered, her voice cracking.
All of it? You let me... You watched me. You planned to hurt me?
No, I said, and this was the honest-to-God truth. I planned to save myself. You getting hurt was just a consequence of you standing in the way of that. You lit the match, Isabella. You built the funeral pyre. All I did was walk out of the flames. I turned and walked out of the room. I didn't look back. I walked down the stairs past all the photos of our life together, our wedding, our vacations, our smiles that now looked like lies. I picked up the one bag I had packed, which was waiting by the door. As my hand touched the doorknob, I heard a final desperate cry from upstairs.
Alex, please, don't leave me.
I paused for a half second, and in that moment I didn't feel anger or satisfaction. I just felt quiet. The quiet of a storm that has finally passed, and I walked out the door, closing it softly behind me, on a life that was no longer mine. It's been a year now. The divorce was as messy as Catherine the Shark Shaw promised it would be, but we got through it. Isabella had to sell the house. I heard from a mutual friend that she quit her job not long after Mark, predictably, dumped her the second things got complicated. Apparently, he had a wife and kids he'd failed to mention. Karma, I guess, does have a way of balancing the books. I don't know where she is now, and I don't care to know. I've come to realize the revenge wasn't the point. The elaborate plan watching her unravel, that wasn't the victory. It was a means to an end. It was the cocoon of anger I had to build around myself to survive the metamorphosis. The real victory was the man I became in the process. I still climb. I'm in the best shape of my life. My design business has taken off because I poured all that focused energy into it. I've traveled, I've made new friends, I've dated a little, but I'm taking my time. I'm learning to trust myself again before I can fully trust someone else. Some of you might think what I did was cruel, that it was a calculated, vengeful act. And you're not wrong. It was. But when someone shows you that they see you as less than human, as an object, as a piece of furniture, you have two choices. You can believe them and let yourself be broken. Or you can become something they can't even comprehend, something stronger. I'm not that good, solid piece of furniture anymore. I'm the man who built a new life from the ashes of the old one. My own Project Phoenix. And this one? This one is real. It's been a hell of a journey, and honestly, sharing it helps. If my story resonated with you, or if you've been through your own fire and came out the other side, share a bit of your strength in the comments. It's good to know you're not fighting these battles alone. Thanks for listening.